Respect it. Listen carefully, because this might be the moment that changes how you see yourself forever. The person who played with your heart didn't just break you, they revealed something inside you that you've been ignoring. And today, you're not here to cry about it anymore. You're here to rise from it. You know, people love to talk about heartbreak like it's the end of the story. Like once someone plays you, disrespects you, walks away like you meant nothing, that's it. Game over. That's not how life works. That's not how growth works. And that's definitely not how power works. Let me tell you something in the spirit of Steve Harvey. Nobody can play you unless you hand them the controller. Now, I know that might sting a little. You're thinking, no, they lied to me. They manipulated me. They pretended to love me. And yes, they did. But the real question is, why did you ignore the signs? Why did you stay when your spirit was already telling you something wasn't right? Because here's the truth most people don't want to admit. When someone plays you, it's not just about them being wrong. It's also about you not valuing yourself enough to walk away sooner. And I'm not saying that to blame you. I'm saying that because that's where your power is. You see, if all the power is in what they did, then you stay a victim forever. But if you take some of that power back and say, I allowed this longer than I should have, now you have control to never let it happen again. That's where the shift begins. Because making someone regret losing you, it's not about revenge. It's not about posting pictures to make them jealous. It's not about trying to prove your worth to someone who already showed you they couldn't see it. Making someone regret it forever comes from something much deeper than that. It comes from transformation. It comes from becoming the version of yourself that no longer tolerates disrespect, confusion, or half-love. Think about it. Person who hurt you, they were only able to do that because they met a version of you that was still learning your worth, still figuring out your standards, still hoping they would change. But what happens when that version of you no longer exists? What happens when you wake up one day and realize you don't even recognize the person who used to beg for their attention? That's when the regret starts. Not because you told them, not because you showed them, but because they feel it. They see you moving differently. They see you carrying yourself with peace instead of pain. They notice that the same person who once waited for their messages now doesn't even check for them. And that hits deeper than any revenge ever could, because regret is born in silence. It grows in the space where they expected you to still be broken, but instead you're building something they can't access anymore. Let me tell you something real. People don't regret losing you when you're still available to them. They regret losing you when you become unavailable emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop chasing closure, when you stop needing them to understand your value, that's when it clicks for them. But here's the part most people get wrong. They try to rush this process. They think, okay, I'll just act like I don't care. They fake confidence. They pretend they've moved on. And deep down, they're still hurting. You can't fake growth. You can't fake healing. Because the energy you carry, it always tells the truth. If you're still checking their social media, still replaying the memories, still hoping they'll come back, trust me, they feel that. And there's no regret in someone who knows you're still waiting. But when you truly let go, when you reach a point where even if they came back, you wouldn't accept them, that's when the dynamic changes completely. Because now you're not reacting anymore. You're choosing. And there's a difference between being wanted and being chosen. The old version of you wanted them. The new version of you chooses yourself. That's the evolution. That's the glow up nobody can take from you. And here's something else you need to understand. The person who played you, they didn't win. It might feel like they did. They walked away. They didn't apologize. They moved on quickly. Maybe they're even happy right now. But don't confuse temporary comfort with long-term peace. People who play others, they carry a pattern. And patterns don't disappear just because they found someone new. They repeat, which means the same behavior that hurt you will eventually hurt someone else. And one day it might come back around to them. But you have a choice. You can either carry the pain forward or you can use it as fuel to become unstoppable. And that's where your real revenge lives. Not in hurting them back, not in proving anything to them, but in becoming so grounded, so confident, so aligned with your purpose that their opinion of you becomes irrelevant. Because let me tell you something powerful. The moment you stop caring about whether they regret it is the exact moment they start to feel it. That's how life works. Energy shifts when attachment disappears. So instead of asking, how do I make them regret it? Ask yourself, how do I become someone who would never tolerate that again? Because that version of you is the one who wins. That version of you doesn't just move on. They level up. You don't lose people. People lose you. And trust me, that's a loss they feel for a long time. You see, the hardest part about being played isn't even what they did to you. It's what it does to your mind afterward. It's the questions that keep you up at night. It's the overthinking, the replaying of conversations, the wondering if any of it was real. And that right there, that's the trap. Because while you're sitting there trying to figure them out, you're slowly losing yourself. Now listen closely, because this is where everything begins to change. The person who played you, they already made their choice. They showed you exactly who they are. But you're still deciding who you're going to be after that. Are you going to be the person who stays stuck in confusion? Or are you going to be the person who turns that pain into power? Because you can't do both. You can't heal and hold on at the same time. And I know letting go feels like losing. Feels like you're giving up on something that mattered to you. But the truth is, you're not losing them. You're losing the illusion of who you thought they were. That version of them you fell for, the one who made promises, who made you feel special, who looked at you like you were the only one, that person wasn't consistent. That person wasn't real enough to stay. And it's hard to accept that. It hurts to realize that you invested your heart into something that wasn't solid. But that pain, also a wake-up call, because now you see clearer. Now you recognize the difference between words and actions. Now you understand that real love doesn't leave you confused. And this is where your growth begins. Not when they come back. Not when they apologize. But when you finally say, I deserve better than what I accepted. That sentence right there is powerful because it shifts your entire mindset. Instead of asking, why did they do this to me? You start asking, why did I settle for less than I deserved? And don't run from that question. Face it. Because your answer to that question, that's where your breakthrough is hiding. Maybe you stayed because you were afraid of being alone. Maybe you stayed because you saw potential instead of reality. Maybe you stayed because you thought love meant patience, even when it was hurting you. But let me tell you something real. Love is not supposed to feel like a constant battle for respect. You shouldn't have to convince someone to treat you right. You shouldn't have to beg for consistency. And you definitely shouldn't have to question where you stand with someone who truly values you. So if they played you, it wasn't because you weren't enough. It was because they weren't ready to be real. And there's a big difference. Stop taking their inability to love properly as a reflection of your worth. That's where most people go wrong. They internalize the pain. They start thinking, maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I wasn't attractive enough. Maybe I did something wrong. The wrong thing you did was ignoring your own value. But the beautiful thing is that can change right now. You don't need them to come back to feel validated. You don't need closure from someone who gave you confusion. You create your own closure the moment you decide, I'm done accepting less than I deserve. And let me tell you what happens next. At first, it's quiet, too quiet. You're used to the chaos, the emotional ups and downs, constant thinking about them. And when that's gone, it feels strange. You might even feel tempted to go back. Not because it was good, but because it was familiar. And familiarity can be dangerous because it tricks you into thinking something is right for you just because you're used to it. But growth feels uncomfortable. Growth requires you to sit with yourself, to rebuild your confidence, to rediscover who you are without them. And that's not easy, but it's necessary because version of you that allowed that situation cannot be the same version of you moving forward. You have to evolve. You have to raise your standards. You have to become so clear about what you deserve that anything less feels unacceptable. And when you reach that point, something powerful happens. You stop attracting people who play games because you no longer entertain that energy. You see, people treat you based on what you tolerate. If you tolerate inconsistency, you'll get inconsistency. If you tolerate disrespect, you'll get disrespect. But when you start walking away at the first sign of it, everything changes because now you're not waiting to be chosen. You're choosing what stays in your life. And that's a whole different level of power. Now let's talk about something most people don't want to hear. Sometimes the reason they don't regret it immediately is because they think you'll always be there. They think no matter what they do, you'll forgive them. You'll take them back. You'll keep giving them chances. And as long as they believe that, there's no urgency for them to change, no consequence for their actions. But the moment you remove yourself completely, the moment they realize they don't have access to you anymore, that's when things start to shift. Because now they have to face the reality of losing you. And let me tell you something, people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone. But here's the catch. By the time they realize your value, you should already be in a place where you don't need them to recognize it. That's the goal, not to wait for their regret, but to outgrow the need for it. Because when you truly heal, their opinion, their feelings, their realization, none of it controls you anymore. You become free, free from the past, free from the pain, free from the attachment. And that freedom, that's your real victory, not them coming back, not them apologizing. But you're becoming someone who no longer needs any of that to feel whole. Because once you reach that level, there's nothing they can take from you again. Now here's where things start to get real, because healing isn't just about letting go of them. It's about facing yourself. And most people don't want to do that part. It's easy to point fingers. It's easy to say they hurt me, they lied, they played games. And all of that may be true. But if you stop there, you only heal halfway. Because the deeper question is, why did this situation feel acceptable to you in the beginning? Why did you ignore the red flags? Why did you silence your intuition when it tried to warn you? See, this isn't about blaming yourself. This is about understanding yourself. Because when you understand yourself, you protect yourself. You stop repeating the same cycles with different people. And that right there, that's how you break patterns. Let me tell you something powerful. People who get played over and over again, it's not because they're unlucky. It's because they haven't changed what they allow. And until you change your standards, your experiences won't change either. That's a hard truth, but it's a necessary one because your life reflects your boundaries. If your boundaries are weak, people will cross them. If your standards are low, people will meet you there. But when you raise them, when you start saying no without guilt, when you walk away without explanation, when you stop giving chances to people who haven't earned them, everything shifts. Now you are not just reacting to life, you're directing it. And that's where your power lives. You see, the person who played you, they taught you something. Maybe not in the way you wanted, but in the way you needed. They showed you what inconsistency looks like. They showed you how manipulation feels. They showed you what happens when someone isn't aligned with your values. And now you have a choice. You can either become bitter or you can become wiser. Because pain will visit everyone, but wisdom is optional. Some people go through heartbreak and come out stronger, clearer, more grounded. Others go through heartbreak and become guarded, angry, closed off. The difference is how they process what happened. So don't let this experience turn you into someone you're not. Don't let it harden your heart to the point where you can't love again. Instead, let it refine you. Let it teach you the difference between attention and intention. Because someone can give you attention all day, texts, calls, compliments, but still have no real intention to build anything meaningful with you. And if you don't recognize that, you'll keep falling for the same pattern. So slow down, observe, listen not just to what people say, but to what they do consistently. Because consistency, that's where truth lies. Anybody can pretend for a short period of time. Anybody can say the right things, but not everybody can show up the same way every single day. And that's what you need to start valuing. Not the excitement, not the chemistry, not the temporary feelings, but the consistency, the effort, the respect, because those are the things that build something real. Now, let me take you even deeper. The reason it hurts so much when someone plays you is because you were genuine, you were real, you gave your time, your energy, your emotions without holding back. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't let this experience make you regret being a good person. That's not the lesson. The lesson is not to become cold. The lesson is to become selective. There's a difference. You don't stop loving deeply. You just stop giving that love to people who haven't proven they deserve it. And once you understand that, your entire life changes because now you're not afraid of getting hurt. You're aware of who you're giving access to. And awareness, that's protection, that's strength, that's growth. Now here's something that might surprise you. Sometimes the person who played you, they come back, not because they've changed, but because they see you've changed. They notice the shift in your energy. They feel the distance. They realize you're not the same person they left. And suddenly they want another chance. They start saying things they never said before, doing things they never did before. And for a moment, it might feel like everything you wanted is finally happening. But listen carefully. This is where most people make the biggest mistake. They go back. They forget the pain. They ignore the lessons. They convince themselves this time will be different. But if the person hasn't truly done the work, if they haven't shown consistent change over time, you're not starting a new chapter. You're repeating the same one. And this time, it will hurt even more because now you knew better. So don't let loneliness trick you into reconnecting with someone who disrespected you. Don't let temporary emotions override permanent lessons because you didn't go through all that pain just to go back to it. You went through it to grow beyond it, to rise above it, to become someone who recognizes their worth and protects it at all costs. And let me tell you something, once you reach that level, you become unstoppable because now your happiness isn't tied to anyone else. Your peace isn't dependent on someone's behavior. Your value isn't determined by someone's opinion. It comes from within. And when it comes from within, nobody can take it from you. Not the person who played you. Not the past, not even your own doubts, because now you know who you are. And once you truly know that, everything else becomes secondary.